war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. The man is not free unless government is limited. An informed patriotism is what we want. But still watch closely. And don't be afraid to see what you see.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
When in hell are all you people going to wake up?
Moretti, Underground, the Liberty Report.
Well, hello, America. Welcome to the Monday, October 13th, 2014 edition of Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report. We're broadcasting live from the studios of PRN Radio Network, the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America. Love those folks, the Watchmen. Hey, guys. I'm Joanne Moretti, and my great co-host, Scott Ferrarello, is here with me, too, and we thank you for tuning in. Our call-in number, as usual, is 714-888-7404. And our chat rooms, both at Blog Talk Radio and, of course, right here at PRN, are open for you, too. Check out our site. Our wonderful colleagues, Lynn, Famous Anna, and AstroTurf, are in the chats, putting the links and sources and articles and all kinds of stuff into the chats so you have them available for your own records as a courtesy. And thank you, ladies. They are more than just colleagues. These people are the most amazing researchers I've ever seen in my life. Some of them even have their own newspapers. And, of course, you might run into some of our other colleagues and correspondents in the chat rooms, too, so please say hi to each other when you get over there. There is a lot of news and updates to catch up on today, and we're going to get to all of them. I'm sure you're all Ebola out, so we'll hold off on that until last. But first I have to do our disclaimer. That just lets everybody know that anything said on this show is solely my responsibility and not that of our wonderful sponsors, the Watchmen of America, or PRN. The disclaimer goes like this. The comments made by hosts and or guest hosts or phone callers of the PRN Radio Network do not necessarily reflect the views, the viewpoints, ideology, beliefs, or anything else of members of the Watchmen of America program or the Patriot Resistance website, and that includes past, present, and even future broadcasts. All right, well, now that that's out of the way, let me open up my great co-host's microphone here and introduce you all to Scott Ferrarello. Hey, Scott.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, very good. How are you tonight?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah? Getting burnt out with that Ebola crap?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
You know, when they saturate the news cycle for 2 weeks, and everybody, including the Sunday comics, have an opinion about it, tends to do that to people. You know.
Yeah.
So what are they? What are they trying to hide? What are they not reporting on? Because this is, 24/7.
Oh, yeah, 24/7.
Even go to the Breitbart web page, and the first 8 articles are all about it. It's just, it's too much.
Yeah, it's every article everywhere. I've seen it. We've got a lot of news to get to, and we will do some Ebola stuff because there's a couple of things. I'm not going to get into all the pathologies and the prepping and all that. You should already all know that. But there's some stories. A couple of them are actually pissing me off that I wanted to bring up. But we'll do that later on. It's 22 days until the election. I hope you're all seeing what's going on. That's another thing that this Ebola has really put on the back burner is who knows who's running, who knows what the subjects are, who knows what anybody has to say or who these politicians even are. You know, especially the new politicians like Rob Maness and Dan Bongino and all of those guys. You know, it's hard to even know who to vote for if no one is giving any airtime except for the paid commercials. And all those are is hit pieces on each other. But, yeah, guys, you got to pay attention to this election, even if you got to wear a mask and gloves and a whole full hazmat suit to the polls. Don't just say I'm not going to do it, because this is for all the marbles. If this Senate stays the same way it is, then we're all done. You might as well just, kiss the country goodbye. Burn your own flags, because they're not going to be useful anyhow. I'm really upset about a lot of things today, and I wanted to get to some of this stuff. Especially, everybody know what today is? Today's Columbus Day. It's not Indigenous people. It's not hate America and everything it stands for. It's not, like Obama had said, rape and rob and pillage and disease infested, all that stuff. I have an article here. Weasel Zip has put it out. It's from CNS News. I'm not going to read a whole big, long article, but he says that Obama's Columbus Day proclamation, history is marred with violence, disease, and deprivation, thanks to Columbus's discovery. This guy really got a vendetta against the United States. Even on Columbus Day, he can't even be cool about us. Are you sure he was talking about Columbus Day? I thought he was referring to the last 6 years of his presidency. Yeah, really, that's true. All the rape and rob and pillage and disease infestations and everything else, it all happened on his watch. You're right. But it says here, CNS News, in a presidential action issued on Friday proclaiming October 13th as Columbus Day, Obama noted that a new history launched by Italian explorer Christopher Columbus's discovery of the New World included the history of American Indians, which he said is marred with long and shameful chapters of violence, disease, and deprivation. In a new world, a history was written, said Obama's proclamation, required by a 1934 Congressional Joint Resolution. It tells the story of an idea that all women and men are created equal, and a people struggle to fulfill it. And it's a history shared by Native Americans, once marred with long and shameful chapters of violence, disease, and deprivation, Obama said. Calling Columbus a son of Genoa, Italy, Obama also used the proclamation to note the impact of immigrants in the United States. Like Columbus, these immigrants and their descendants have shaped the place where they landed, said Obama. Italian Americans have enriched our culture and strengthened our country. Well, I don't disagree with that. But, this Indians are marred with long, shameful chapters of violence, disease, and deprivation. All right. Yeah, we don't have the cleanest record. Yes, we did have beefs with the Indians. But the Indians weren't sitting around with their hands folded saying the rosary silently when we attacked them. Diseases. Diseases didn't just attack the Native Americans. Most of the settlers, the pilgrims, died the first year they were here. And was that the Indians' fault? Of course not.
Yeah, and what country doesn't have a checkered past like that? I mean, name
exactly.
one.
Oh, no, every country does. Now, as far as the Indians go, I love Native Americans. Of course I do. But, telling people this distorted history is really, really disgusting. All right? Yes, there were diseases brought over by people from other countries. Gee, it sound familiar, anybody? Maybe these people didn't bring them intentionally. It's not like somebody took a bottle full of smallpox and threw it at the Native Americans. That didn't happen. Yeah, there's diseases, but the people that were here and the people who came here all didn't have the same immune systems. You know, the settlers did bring diseases, but also the settlers got diseases from the people who were here. You know, this was a new country. It was, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of people here. Yeah, there were Native Americans here. But you know what? Native Americans didn't actually come from here either. A lot of them came from Asia. And there was even, like, the nomad Indians came from Siberia and walked across the ice bridge into Alaska and moved down. The Blackfoot Indians, Wampanoags, lots of them. You know, so to sit there and tell everybody on an historic day like today that we suck, you know, that's kind of a slap in the face, if you ask me.
Well, he never passes up an opportunity to preach his American hate. You know, he likes to let people know how bad he hates this country.
Yeah. Well, you do remember Michelle Obama, when Obama was first running, back in May 2008, Michelle Obama says, Barack knows that we're going to have to make some sacrifices. We're going to have to change our conversation. We're going to have to change our traditions, our history. We're going to have to move into a different place as a nation. Change traditions, change history? What do you mean change history? You can't rewrite history.
And when she says we have to make sacrifices, she means you have to make sacrifices.
Oh, yeah.
The only sacrifice, they make is, where they're going to fly on the next 9 vacations they take next month.
Yeah. We're going to have to change our history. They see us as a bunch of jerks. They hate us, Michelle and Obama do. You know, I don't know if any of you all saw Dinesh D'Souza's movie, America. But he goes through all this stuff about how we suck. No, we don't suck. We are the most innovative country. You know, Michelle Obama says Africa runs through her veins. Maybe it does. But then they go on and say that we, raped and robbed and pillaged Africa. No, we didn't. No, we didn't. You know who raped and robbed and pillaged Africa? Africans. Their government. Their tribal warlords. You know, American companies, yes, they're doing business over there. What do you think? They just walked in and took over Africa and said, beat it, I'm taking over your company now? No, they didn't. They made contracts and agreements, and they paid taxes, and they have all kinds of things that they have to do, like community things that they have to do. They hire all kinds of people, miners, things like that. And, yeah, they sell a product. Just like, China has a solar plant over here in the Nevada desert. They didn't steal it. It was sold to them. And that's what's going on in Africa, too. Back in the day, Africa was a colony, colonized by Europeans. And during the apartheid struggles, the colonists were all expelled, thrown out. The landowners, the farmers, the businessmen, they were all booted. Africans just wanted it to be African. And after that, they all start killing each other and raping and robbing and pillaging and making shady deals. They got diamonds over there. There's a diamond miners' strike going on. They're unionized. Matter of fact, Obama's boy, Leo Gerard, was over there unionizing them for the last, 15, 20 years. So was the Steelworkers Union and the Teamsters and all of them. The way that the Obamas look at us, it's like we went in there, we kicked everybody's ass and took their stuff, and we're not giving it back. That's not true. Anything that came out of Africa was purchased, right down to the sugar. Plus, do you know how many trillions and trillions of dollars we donate to Africa? AIDS research, water purification plants. We spent $2 million on fruit trees for a golf course in Vanuatu. All right, who has $2 million fruit trees? But that's what we spent.
Well, there's a bigger picture, though, why they do that. And it's all about globalism and how they have to destroy all national pride. They have to make America a non-exceptional country, just like every third world crap hole out there. And so they got to tear it down, piece by piece, tradition by tradition.
Exactly.
If they could illegalize Christmas right now, they would, but they got to start somewhere, so they're starting with Columbus Day.
Yeah, non-denominational winter holiday.
And you know, it's too bad the Italians don't complain, but they don't. They should say it's racist to get rid of Columbus Day.
Yeah, well, if you were in the north end of Boston and you said something bad about Columbus Day or the Columbus Day Parade, yeah, there would probably be buildings tipped over and stuff. You know, it's important. It's important to keep our culture. You know, they're not teaching our children about the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. They're teaching it like these guys were a bunch of schlubs that broke into the country and killed all the Indians and stole their stuff. That didn't happen.
Yeah, a bunch of pirates. Yeah, they were pirates.
Yeah.
That's what they want to convey.
You know, somebody ought to say something to Obama. $1 and $1. Jerk. You know, and then they try to teach our children. All right, for the first time this year, this is from CNN, for the first time this year, Seattle and Minneapolis will recognize the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples Day. No, it's not Indigenous People Day. It's Columbus Day. You know, it's like saying kids are purple penguins. No, they're not. Give me a break. You know, I don't know even what we're doing anymore. We don't teach our children history. We don't teach them proper mathematics. You know, this Common Core mathematics, by the way, you have to take extra steps. What kid is ever going to learn calculus if they can't even get an accurate number out of these teachers? You know, they're taking away our kids' history, Columbus Day, all of it. Even Independence Day. They don't want to call it the 4th of July. They want to call it a day of service, remember? National Day of Service instead of Independence Day.
Right.
You know, we got to stop letting them rename things. We got to stop letting them rob our children of their history. They don't even teach cursive writing anymore. Do you know that?
That's because all our founding documents are in cursive writing.
Exactly.
You know, they're going to grow up not even be able to read it. We the people.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too. We the people. Our Constitution starts with "We the people of the United States," not "We the people of Mexico" or the UN or "We the people of the planet." It says "We the people of the United States." We are a sovereign nation. We are not beholden to the UN or to the planet or to any organization or IMF or any of that. We are a sovereign nation. Right now, our borders are wide open. We might as well just be a hallway between Mexico and Canada. That's another story coming up. I'm sorry?
That's basically what we are. It's you know, it's like General Petraeus said. It's America, North America becomes, you know, America, which is Canada, North America, and Mexico combined into one.
Right.
North American Union.
Yeah, well, we see how well that worked out for the European Union. Everybody's trying to ditch out of that. You know, Scotland was this close to getting out of it. So, you know, it doesn't work out that well. And when they said that they wanted everything fair, what is fair? Is it fair that you keep what you earn? Or is it fair that you work like a dog and then you share it with others that don't? Or won't, not don't, won't. Some can't. You know, handicapped, elderly, infirm, children. No, we can take care of those. We're Americans. Of course we can take care of those. But, you know, able-bodied adults. 46% of the country is on some sort of a government benefit. 46%. Now,
I figured it was higher than that.
Well, as the job market is going down the toilet, and we know that, and the stock market crashing and all of that, it's going to be 56%. How is 44% of the country going to take care of 56% of the country? And that's just a beginning. That will escalate. You know, pretty soon you're going to have it 70-30. Nobody has any personal responsibility anymore. Nobody has any incentive anymore. Our kids are graduating college, can't even read or write. You know, it's just getting out of control. And it's time we put our foot down. Now, no election's going to fix this. It's going to have to come from motivation from the American people. It's got to come from your heart, from your soul, from your patriotism. It's got to come throughout your whole being. Do you really want your country, or don't you? And that's where we're at right now. Because if you want your country, time to make some moves. And if you don't, well, just keep doing what you're doing, because obviously that's the end game there. Anything you want to say before we go to the show? Do the show?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Just before we came on air, I saw an article that Kim Jong-un has reappeared after not being seen in North Korea since September 3rd. He looks a little heavy and he's limping, so I don't know what happened to him, but he has been spotted.
But I heard he got stuck at an all-you-can-eat buffet and couldn't find the exit. Is that true?
It could have. He did gain some ounces there. I saw the photograph. Now, also in North Korea, I just brought that up because I have a North Korea story here. In North Korea, the remains of thousands of American soldiers that were killed during the Korean War were being carried away en masse due to construction projects and flood damage. This is from the Associated Press. The Korean War, which lasted from 1950 to 1953, ended in an armistice that left the peninsula still technically at war. About 8,000 U.S. service members are listed as missing, and among them, 5,300 are believed to be in North Korean soil. According to the New York Times, there have been 33 joint recovery operations conducted by the U.S. and North Korea between 1996 and 2005. However, Washington suspended recovery efforts in 2012 due to rising tension over the North's plan to launch long-range rockets. On Monday, today, an unidentified North Korean military spokesman told the state media that U.S. war remains now look like no better than stones as land rezoning and other gigantic nature remaking projects made progress. He added, the Obama administration should not forget even a moment the proverb saying that even a skeleton cries out of yearning for the homeland. Analysts believe that North Korea's statement is an apparent effort to pressure the U.S. into resuming recovery efforts, which could lead to much-needed cash for the reclusive country, as well as better ties with Washington, reported the AP. So they say that they're doing these projects. Now, if you're doing projects, you probably have money for the project, right? So
no, they don't.
Well,
Let's
then why are they digging up the remains?
To
get money out of Obama? That's a good way to do it.
He's pretty easy to squeeze money out of.
Sure he is. He certainly is.
I mean, for every dollar, he steals $3 from us, he gives one to them and keeps two for himself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, every time
Pretty good
they
scam.
put out $1, less than 1 cent makes it to the street. By the time
Got an
the
awesome
dollar
money
gets,
laundering.
Oh yeah.
Got
By
an
the time
awesome
the dollar
money
gets
laundering
passed
operation.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Everybody gets greased. By the time the money hits the street, there isn't any money. Hey, let's switch gears here for a second. I wanted to bring that up because, I don't know why they're disturbing U.S. soldiers' remains. And that was actually a slap in Obama's face. Even a skeleton cries out for the homeland. Yeah, I'd like to get them all back. But, digging them up and creating a scene and, making it imperative, taking a fit, that's not the way to do it. I'm really upset about that.
Leave
them alone until we can come
Kim
get them.
Jong does. That's all his dad did, was extort money from the United States through threats, intimidation, and whatever else he can dig up. No pun intended.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Oh, whatever you could dig up. Now they're digging up bones, American bones. Leave them be until we can come get them. That was really what my point is. We will come get them. We should come get them. There's no reason we can't come get them. If he needs a few bucks, I don't know what to tell you, but get the guys back. Hey, there was a strange story in the paper in Birmingham, Alabama. This woman named Carol Robinson wrote this story. She says that a hero army expert removed a grenade lodged in an Alabama man's leg, ending an 8-hour ordeal outside of a Birmingham hospital. I'll tell you this story, then I got a story for you, too, that I know actually happened. It says here, the explosive device lodged in the leg of a Walker County man was removed early Saturday morning by an Army explosives expert inside an ambulance parked outside of a UAB hospital, ending an 8-hour ordeal. A U.S. Army explosive ordnance disposal specialist out of Fort Benning was brought to Birmingham by way of Alabama State Trooper escort and removed what turned out to be a 40-millimeter practice grenade from the thigh of the man. Birmingham spokesman Lieutenant Sean Edwards said the incident ended at 6:50 a.m. It was extremely heroic, said Dave Heitch, a Birmingham supervisor with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Nobody knew this wasn't live. Removing it could have easily killed everyone there. The guy was in his 60s, and he was trying to dismantle this grenade, and something launched on it, and it ended up embedded in his leg, and it was sitting on some nerves and stuff. Ooh, yeah. And they, brought him by ambulance, and they left the ambulance outside, and this guy here, the Army hero, he really is a hero too. He's a medic, but he's also an explosives guy, and the guy had been tinkering with some kind of explosive device, and it became lodged inside his legs. Anyhow, they're going to be searching his home for more ordinances. But if you got practice bombs and stuff around, don't play with them. Get rid of them if you don't know what you're doing. This guy had no idea what he was doing. He's a 60-year-old guy got this grenade and decided to take it apart, and that's what happened. Hey, all y'all, look at this. And the next thing you know, it's embedded in his leg, and he was in agony, and, that guy, way to go, high five to the Army guy. I know a story like that, old dear friend of mine, her parents had both passed on. Her father died first, and her mother died, quite a few years later. When they were cleaning out the house, her father was a cop, by the way, a big shot, a detective in the Boston Police Department. And he had this practice bomb. He used to teach the other cops how to take them apart and identify and do things like that. It was just a practice bomb. Well, they were cleaning out the house, and they had the people come, to take all the debris away. And the people wouldn't take that. The junk man wouldn't take it. So they didn't know what to do with it. My friend and her brother and another friend of ours decided to take it down the police station. They'll know what to do with it. So my friend packs up the bomb. Her and her brother and the friend walk into the police station and said, "We have this bomb," and they put it on the counter. And before they could even say any details, they were standing there at gunpoint, told, "Get against the wall." The whole building was evacuated. They evacuated all of the square where the police station is located. They dragged everybody outside, put them into a police car, questioned everybody, had the explosive teams come, and, before they could even tell them, we found this explosive. Then it's not even an explosive, it's a dummy bomb. And it was my father. They couldn't get any of that out. Next thing you know, they got a bomb situation in the bomb squad, and the place is cordoned off. So if you find anything like that, call the fire department. Don't move it. Tell them come get it. Tell them, give them the story on the phone before you end up at gunpoint. They thought that they're going to blow up the police station or something. Can you imagine that?
That wasn't really smart to do. I mean, I would have, left it in my car, in the parking lot far away from the building, went inside, then told them that it was out in the car or something. I mean,
yep.
There's crazy people all over.
Yeah. Well, my friend, wasn't thinking like that. She was just innocently marched into the police station with the bomb. It did not go well. They frown on that. Don't do it. Hey, do you know it's easy to steal houses in New York?
Really?
Yeah. They changed their deeding process in their property office and things like that to make it more user-friendly. Well, it's so friendly that this woman got a high water bill for her second home, and she shouldn't because there was nobody there. She went over there. Somebody had changed the locks, changed the deed, and was living in the house. And it was all legal.
How could they change the deed?
They went down and filed a new deed without any information, any idea or anything, because it's so user-friendly now, that they took this woman's house away. The story's from the Blaze. One word described how Jennifer Marin felt when she discovered a convicted criminal and his sons had taken over her Queens, New York home. Horrified. The worst part, city bureaucrats had basically okayed the squatters moving in by processing a false deed. And there could be hundreds of other cases just like Marin's. Marin told the New York Post that she only discovered the squatters were occupying her Queens property in May when she got an unexpectedly large water bill. The house was maintained basically as a sanctuary for my family, she said. She lives in Manhattan, but she stays at her Queens home every couple months. Convicted armed robber Darrell Beatty, he's 49, his sons, Darrell and Deshaun, moved into Marin's home in February, and Marin said she discovered that her car and many valuables were missing, everything from Chinese palace vases to my underwear. She also discovered the locks had been changed, and city officials thought the home belonged to Beatty. As the Post investigation found, Beatty had filed a deed transfer back in March 2013, but in the paperwork, he listed a non-existent address for Edith Moore, the person he supposedly bought the property from. When the Post tried to contact Beatty by way of telephone number he had listed in the paperwork, reporters got the voicemail of somebody named Tony. So, it says the old policy was designed to be customer-friendly, said Sheriff Joseph Facito. He explained that the deed transfers could be obtained online, required minimal info before being approved by a notary public. You could just tell them you own the property, transfer the deed, and boom,
Wow.
there it is.
I think I might try that on one of Trump's properties.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? I got a similar story down here in Boca Raton, but wow.
I'd like to live at the Taj Mahal. How about you? Let's go claim that property.
Yeah, really. That'd be nice, or something nice down in Key West, one of those beautiful hacienda type
Now
homes.
burglar friendly, see?
Yeah.
The new burglar friendly laws.
Yeah, well, nice, user friendly. You can just do it online. Don't even need an ID. I think maybe we should just have some fun and switch everybody's deeds around.
That's unbelievable.
Swap it with the lady down the street's deed, and maybe the guy the next block over, and swap it with the first lady's. That ought to straighten them out, huh?
Yeah.
There's another thing going on in New York, and this is kind of a New World Order type thing. The IMF, I'm sure you've all heard of the IMF and Lagarde and all that. Well, Cuomo wants his own export-import bank. Now, the Federal Reserve is in trouble. The IMF wants to be the big man on campus for the global banking. They want to get rid of the petrodollar. And Cuomo now wants a seat at the table, and he wants his own export-import bank. The New York Observer says, Governor Andrew Cuomo today proposed that New York State create its own version of the Federal Export-Import Bank to provide lines of credit for foreign investors, even though he acknowledged that such an institution would constitute what he called corporate welfare. Speaking at a business summit at the Jacob Javits Center, Mr. Cuomo boasted of cutting taxes and creating private sector jobs in his first term, and argued that the next step would be to encourage international investment in New York State. The guy is selling New York to foreigners. And he's going to start his own bank to do it with. He's going to give them money, upfront money, to start businesses and buy commercial properties and stuff. What's the matter? Not enough New Yorkers that could own a business? They could use a hand. They could use startup funds, don't you think? This guy wants an international bank. Who is he?
He'll probably get it.
Probably will get it.
When you have a lawless administration in there that's in there now, it's a free for all for anybody. It's just trickle down tyranny.
Yeah. Well, he's one of the biggest red diaper baby commies around. Cuomo, he's got to go. He is full-blown radical from the word go. And now this guy, he wants a seat at the table for the globalists. This is getting insane, folks. Stock markets have been on the downslide. We saw it today. It closed down almost 223 points today. 1.4%. It closed at 16,321. So it's lost quite a bit. It was up over 1,700, which you all know the stock market's fake, right? Or at least I hope you all know.
It's like a Vegas slot machine. It's like a Vegas casino.
Absolutely. All right, we got a tornado warning for Rolling Bones' area. Stay safe. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that, but it's in our chat room, and one of our watchmen is in a tornado path right now.
I see that.
Take shelter now. You can hear us on the archive. Go. Anyhow, we were talking about the stock market. Now, every month since they started that quantitative easing, there's been $87 billion a month pumped into the stock market. They told you it was $47 billion, but it's not. It's $87 billion because they have a $40 billion backup account. So $87 billion is pumped into that stock market. You know, every time the Fed puts money in there, the big stockholders come and skim it right out. But they let it sit there for a little while, a couple hours, just to say, oh, yeah, the stock market's doing great. It's up over 17,000. So all the little saps say, oh, yeah, look at it, it's on the rise, and they all invest their money, and then it gets skimmed right out, right off the top. It's down now 16,321. So it's lost 700 points. That's not an accident. Now, even though the stocks are allegedly doing good, they're not doing good. They're getting $87 billion a month pumped into it. No, they're not doing good. You know, the top 1%, yeah, they're doing great because they're the ones that are able to skim the money off. Plus, they have special bidding machines, the computers, that they can just do a bid in a fraction of a second for what takes a normal bidder maybe a second to do. They can, by the time you get your one bid in, they can do 4.
Almost everything is automatic computer run now.
Yeah, but some are faster than others intentionally. You know, so this stock market crap is another thing that you better keep your eye on. You know, our unemployment, if you got 300 million people and only 90 million are working, then, all right, even if you take out 100 million for handicapped and children and elderly, you know, that's still, you know, the unemployment rate is like 33%. When you look around you in your neighborhood, you know who's working and who isn't. You know who's working full-time and who isn't. You know who got recently laid off or been laid off for a while. You can just look out your door and see how our economy is doing. You see any construction and home improvements going on in your neighbors' homes? No. Anybody got a job? You know, anybody buying a new car? No. So when they tell you the economy's doing great, it isn't. I just wanted to bring that up, too. Mitt Romney told a joke about Obama, and he's in trouble over it. Did you hear about his joke? It's a stupid, goofy, little corny joke anyhow. But, boy, is he in a world of trouble about it. Would you like to hear the joke? Scott? Oh, I think I lost Scott. Yes, I did. All right, well, that's why I can't hear him. Hi, Scott, your microphone's back open.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't either. I went back over to the studio when you were gone. Want to hear Romney's joke?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. WorldNet Daily says, a joke about Obama's identity that has been circulating on the Internet has just received a big boost from former presidential candidate Mitt Romney. The 2012 GOP nominee voiced the zinger Sunday night in West Des Moines, Iowa, during a rally for Iowa Republican Senate candidate Joni Ernst. Now, when you're running for office, people tell you you shouldn't tell jokes, Romney explained. but I'm not running for office, so I can tell one. Romney noted he got this on the internet from a family member. Here's his joke. Obama went to the bank to cash a check and didn't have his ID. And the teller said, "You've got to prove who you are." He said, "Well, how should I do that?" She said, "The other day, Phil Mickelson came in. He didn't have his ID, but he set up a little cup on the ground, took a golf ball, putted it right into that cup, so they knew it was Phil Mickelson. They cashed his check. Then Andre Agassi came in, and Andre Agassi didn't have his ID either. He put a little target on the wall, took a tennis ball and a racket, hit it onto that target time. We knew that was Andre Agassi, so we cashed his check. And she said to him, 'Is there anything you can do to prove who you are?' Obama said, 'I don't have a clue.' And then she said, 'Well, Mr. President, do you want your money in small bills or large bills?'"
Yeah, I think Romney should stick to comedy.
Yeah, don't give up his day job.
Right.
How do you feel about Obamacare? Everybody getting all their new notices? The ones from your employers and the new premium notices yet, or your cancellations for January? You should be if you're not. If you haven't got them yet, you will be. Obama, he's not going to release the Obamacare premiums, by the way, until after the elections. Daily Caller says the Obama administration has already debuted its new improved version of healthcare.gov, but still won't release premium rates on the website until after the November 4th elections. The Department of Health and Human Services unveiled the updated federal Obamacare exchange last Wednesday. The website is, by all accounts, in much better condition than last year. Health and Human Services Secretary Sylvia Burwell has said that the administration has put the new version of healthcare.gov through its paces, and the administration has allowed insurers to test the site out themselves, although they made clear that insurance companies are not allowed to share their results with the media. And yet, although the website appears to be finally ready for prime time, the administration has still decided not to release premium rates on the website for another month. The open enrollment period begins November 15th, over a week after the November 4th elections, and lasts just 3 months, half as long as the first open enrollment run. The GOP has urged the administration to release the rates as soon as they're finalized so that customers have more time to budget, and presumably because hikes would be detrimental to Obamacare supporters come election time. The administration will know exactly what health insurance plans cost on November 3rd, and they should release that information to the public on that day so families can start to plan. That's what Lamar Alexander said last week. But, no, they're going to hide the rates until after the election. So if you weren't an Obamacare fan before, what do you get your letter in the mail? Most of you are going to lose your insurance policies. A lot of you are going to lose your jobs, your full-time jobs anyhow, because companies have to now provide insurance, unless you're an illegal. Then they don't get in trouble for that. But if you're a legal citizen of the United States and you're a full-time employee, the company has to offer an insurance policy for you, even if you've got to pay for it yourself. But like I said, illegals are exempt from that, which, of course, incentivizes companies to hire illegals over you. You know, if I have a company and I have some job openings, if I hire an American, I have to pay their insurance. If I hire an illegal, I don't. So what do you think the natural result of that's going to be? Especially when he's got millions and millions of illegals to choose from for employees.
I don't know. Total destruction of our health system, along with everything else he touches.
Yeah, well, this is going to lead to single payer. Absolutely. That was the goal anyhow. We all knew that. Bonnie Frank even told us. They always tell us. But Bonnie Frank told us, yeah, this is you have to do this first because people aren't going to go for it. But this will lead to single payer. And he was certainly telling us.
They aren't going to go for any of it, you know.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Go without insurance? A lot of the doctors aren't even taking insurance. All right, say, like my friend, he has a fixed income. We were talking about this the other day. He has a fixed income. And 1/3 of his income goes to his health insurance. I guess he's got like a disability type thing, and it's $1,500 a month. He makes too much money for the free medical, but he's paying almost $500, it's like $460 a month for health insurance. Now, the doctors are charging $90 for a visit if you prompt pay that day. If they got to bill you, then they charge you like $150 for your visit. But if you pay that day, it's $100. And they have a reduced rate for labs like blood tests and stuff is only like $25, and they do it in-house. So it's cheaper for this guy to pay the doctor the $125 a month for a visit. And then, he doesn't go every month. He probably goes, I don't know, what do normal people go? Probably once every 6 months, every 5 months, unless you're sick. And then if you get sick, you can still apply for Obamacare.
Well,
So,
that's one way to cut down on the useless eaters, isn't it?
Yeah, really.
Just deny them health care and let them die.
Mhm. We didn't have bodies in the streets, and we do have the best healthcare system in the world, the most innovative, the most modern healthcare system, and Obama will tell you that. So why did we have to fix it if it wasn't broken? People were saying, "Oh yeah, the doctors and healthcare is expensive." Yeah, it was, but not like it is now, was it?
And and if they would have ever passed tort reform, those prices would have come way down. But they didn't want to do that.
Do you know how easy tort reform would be? It doesn't even have to be binding. Like a criminal case. If you violate gun laws, say, if you're a convicted felon in possession of a gun, they have a minimum and a maximum. Why can't we do that with health lawsuits? And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be binding. If there are circumstances and real intent and negligence, then a judge can overrule that. But just a basic guideline for jurors is tort reform. It's that simple.
Well, 90% of Congress are lawyers,
That's true, too.
The president was a lawyer. His wife was a lawyer. Even Trey Gowdy, who I like, was a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then the lobbyists, they're one of the best funded lobbyists there is.
That's true. That's true. We should get some more techies and some business people and some governors who have actually run a state in our government, at the top levels. So, all these lawyers, everything is even war is run by lawyers. And Obama, he's a community organizer. I'm sure that he was just as lazy going through school as he is now as president. Probably didn't show up, probably had other people do his work for him. This guy's gone for a free ride his whole life. Everything was always done for him. He's never been assigned any blame, never had to take any responsibility for anything. He just thinks that's the way his life is supposed to be. He's king of the world. Whatever he does is all right, and if he screws up, someone else will mop it up. And that's the way, he's been since day one. Even when he was a senator, he voted president when he showed up at all.
Oh, I know it. Constantly.
Yeah.
One of the laziest senators around.
Yeah, he's a community organizer. That's kind of like a party planner. I don't even think he could plan a party, if you ask me. But I'm at a loss for words. I don't even know what to say about this guy anymore. He doesn't need our advisors like our Joint Chiefs and things like that. He has his own. Doesn't show up for his briefings. None of that. If something goes wrong, it's never his fault. He's a bystander and everything.
Why don't they just hold the briefings on a golf course? He'd never miss one, right?
That's true. He wouldn't miss him then, would he?
They could just have every briefing could be the next hole, and when he gets to it, they
taking them in
sort of tell
person
him.
anyhow. Even when he does take a briefing, it's only on a computer or something because he doesn't even take them in person. He doesn't even want them anymore. He doesn't need our briefings. He has his own. He has his own advisors. He has his own agenda. I saw today somebody had tweeted, I can't stand the people on the 5. They're still treating him like he's a bumbling idiot. You know what? Obama is not a bumbling idiot. Obama is a very precise deviant. That's what he is. He's not bumbling anything. He never strays from his agenda. He doesn't care what we think of him. He doesn't care what our official, constitutionally designed government thinks of him. He doesn't care what our laws are. Obama is following a script, and he never, ever strays.
See,
people like
that's all
Valerie
it
Jarrett.
is. Yeah, right. Somebody's, George Soros or someone's given the script to Valerie. She's passing it to him, and he just gets up there and rattles whatever he does off of a teleprompter, It's
right.
nothing. It's just a puppet show.
That's exactly what it is. And then if he doesn't get his way, he's like a petulant child. He storms around, and you see all the Ulsterman articles about him fuming and being disassociated, and Valerie Jarrett running around like a nut, screaming at people. God, I wouldn't want to work at that White House. You must be on eggshells every time you walk in the door. Never know what the day's going to bring. But
luckily they're not there very often, so Secret Service must have a good time partying, while the cat's away, the mice will throw parties.
Yeah. Well, the one really running the show is Valerie Jarrett. We never would have voted for her. That's why she's not president. But she was smart. She put up a proxy. Just like Progressive Insurance, that little chick Flo who was on TV all day, every day.
Yeah.
All right, well, she's their spokesmodel. People love her. She's cute. She's sweet, all of that. But she's not running Progressive Insurance. She's just the face. And that's a good comparison to Obama because he's just the spokesmodel.
Yeah, I like to use the fast food analogy. It's like if you want to complain about a hamburger at McDonald's, Obama is like the counter manager who controls all the cashiers. Okay? I mean, you might be able to go and complain to him and say it's his fault, but Valerie is the manager of the whole store, and there's somebody else that owns the chain. You never see that person.
Right.
So if you have a problem with a hamburger, you're never going to get to the top guy.
Exactly.
Sort of like a mob hierarchy.
And it's not even for the benefit of the United States. Even with the Ebola thing, Obama said, I got to worry about Americans, but I have a higher responsibility to make sure that the people in Africa are safe. You know what? Are the people in Africa paying your salary?
He's a global citizen.
Yep.
Remember? Remember he said he was a global citizen at the UN?
He did. Yep. He's a citizen of the world. I'm a global citizen. And his Secretary of State told the Harvard Crimson that he was an internationalist, too. I am an internationalist. I would only like to see the United States military dispersed around the world under the command of the UN. John Kerry said that to the Harvard Crimson.
And they already admitted that they do that.
Yes, they do.
They had the Joint Chiefs of Staff sitting there in front of Congress one time saying that they take their orders from the UN, and when they get their orders, they'll let Congress know. Some of the members of Congress were freaking out. They were saying, I got to catch my breath here. I can't believe what you just said.
Yeah. Remember what he said to the West Point cadets, too. You're all part of a global order now. He didn't call them the New World Order. He called them a global order, but it's the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Speaking of the military, there's an article here. AstroTurf sent it over to me. It says the Army refuses to release Berdahl investigative findings. I think maybe the Army is being held back from releasing it. I don't think that they get to make that decision. I think somebody above them saying, no, you're not releasing that. But it says, according to a report in the San Antonio News Express, the U.S. Army has completed but is refusing to release its investigation into the suspected desertion of Army Private First Class Bo Berdahl, who walked off his base in Afghanistan in 2009. He subsequently fell into the hands of Taliban forces, who held him captive for 5 years. His release, which was orchestrated and executed by the Obama administration without the consent of Congress, swapped Berdahl for the 5 most senior Taliban commanders held in captivity, and has arguably become the most controversial prisoner exchange in the history of the country. He was released in May of this year, by the way. And, why don't they at least release that much? Why are they telling the military not to release that?
I don't know.
Is it because of the election? It doesn't matter to Obama what this election does. He couldn't care less who is in Congress. He doesn't give a damn about Congress. He doesn't care who's in the Senate, except for Harry Reid.
He's made him obsolete.
Mhm.
Yeah. Everybody thought things were going to change when the House was taken back, and then nothing changed. They could nullify his executive orders within 60 days of him signing one, and that hasn't happened yet.
No. Now, we all know that Democrats have been in the majority in our government, or at least people should know that Democrats have been in the majority in our government since 2006, when Nancy Pelosi took over as Speaker of the House. 2006, they had majority Dems in the Senate and the House. In 2008, Obama was elected, so they had a supermajority, the Senate, the House, and the executive branch, the president. Then in 2010, they lost the House to the Republicans, but they still had the Senate and the presidency. And the same with 2012. They still had the Senate and the presidency. So actually, they keep blaming everything on these Republicans, who I really aren't too thrilled with either. But, they're blaming everything on the Republicans when it's the Democrats that are in the majority. When Harry Reid is in charge of the cemetery for bills, they get passed in the House and they go over to the Senate, never to be seen or heard from again, never see the light of day. There's over 300 bills on Harry Reid's desk that he hasn't even brought to the floor.
I was just going to say that. A stack of them on his desk, he'll never see the light of day.
Yeah. So Obama doesn't
seriously wrong with that.
Obama doesn't give a damn about Congress as long as he's got somebody like Harry Reid in there as a firewall and somebody else like Eric Holder as a firewall. That's all he needs. Obama is allegedly a constitutional scholar. Yeah, he studied the Constitution, to find ways to usurp it. He was looking for loopholes. He wasn't there to honor it, but to defy it. And that's been his mission right along, and he's done very well at it. If you look at it like he's trying to destroy the country, then you'll see it a lot better. He's not a bumbling idiot. This is intentional. Alan West pointed out something that Obama did with an executive order that is actually illegal, treasonous, and our military should not go along with it, especially the recruiters. Alan West, Obama's latest executive order is unlawful, and the military members well within their rights to disobey it. TPNN put this out. Late last month, as Americans were distracted by the news of Attorney General Eric Holder's resignation, Obama quietly and unceremoniously violated his oath of office once again by bolstering lawlessness as the official policy of the United States. Obama issued another unconstitutional executive order that would allow illegal immigrants to join the United States military. Despite holding such low regard for our nation and her laws that millions remain in the country illegally, many of these illegal immigrants are now eligible to take the jobs of Americans in the armed forces, according to the new edict. The policy is open to those who qualify for Obama's equally unlawful Deferred Action for Child Arrivals program, otherwise known as DACA. To discuss the issue, Alan West joined Fox News' Judge Pirro to discuss the unlawful action. I love Judge Janine. When Judge Janine noted that it was a felony to arm an illegal immigrant, Colonel West agreed, but noted, When has law ever meant anything to Barack Hussein Obama? But the more important thing we've come to understand, that is if you go to the Constitution, to Article 1, Section 4, Clause number 4, that says, only Congress has the ability to make rules or laws regarding naturalization. The President does not have that. So when you go back and look at the executive order he did, calling it a DREAM Act, you look at this edict that he has sent down, it is an unlawful order. Colonel West also provocatively noted that the demand from the President that recruiters and other members of the military sign up illegals is, in fact, an unlawful order, and that such military members are well within their rights to disobey the unlawful order passed down from the President. So, when we thought it was just, oh yeah, he's going to let the illegals join the military, that's not just something that should be blown off. That is actually a constitutional crisis. But people play it off like, it's no big deal, it's just Obama breaking the law again. How many times are we going to allow this? How many times is Obama going to get away with breaking the law? Before
so far, about 2,000 times.
2,000?
And counting.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Rush Limbaugh counted it as about 1,800 times in the last 2 years. So just add, that to 6 years. It's probably topping 5,000 by now.
Oh, I bet. We can't just let him do this. He took an oath to uphold that Constitution, not defy it. I don't know why our Congress is letting it. Congress is the only one who can make naturalization laws. So why did they, I don't know. I'm mad at them too. There are ways that they can stand up. And, it doesn't have to be Democrat or Republican. What's the matter? Democrats aren't in love with their Constitution or something? What happened? All the Democrats I knew were patriots. We had a little bit different views on some things, but they weren't full-blown communists trying to destroy the country or take out our Constitution a piece at a time.
The last Democrat was John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, and they killed him.
Yep.
I'm very upset about that because, he's forcing our military to arm illegals. He's forcing our military to arm the enemy over in the Middle East. That's heating up, too. Hey, you want to take a quick commercial break? I think we're past our commercial time, and then when we come back, we got a ton more news, and I do want to get to some Ebola stuff, but we still got more. We got to talk about Ferguson and things like that, too. All right, we'll be right back. Go grab a drink of water, coffee, and come right back. And we are back live. You're listening to Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, right here at Patriot Resistance Radio Network, the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America program. I'm Joanne Moretti, your host, and my great co-host, Scott Ferrarello, is here with me, too, and we're happy you stuck around. Thank you very, very much. Still with me, Scott?
Yeah, that name is just rolling off your tongue now, Joanne.
Hey, I practice, I want to get it right. I want to sound like a dingbat on the radio.
Nah, never.
Yeah, while we were on break, I was checking the chat room to see if one of our watchmen checked back in. He was going to take cover for storms, and I don't know what the storm status is yet. Hope he's all right. Hey, Ferguson this weekend. What a fiasco. All right? Now, we all know that kid Mike Brown got shot by, what's his name, Darrell Wilson, the cop.
Right.
There is a grand jury about to release their findings, probably at the beginning of the week. Everybody's getting all excited about it, if this guy doesn't get indicted. And, now the grand jury is made up of locals. They wouldn't do a change of venue. But now, people like Malik Shabazz at the New Black Panthers, they're calling for rebellion against tyrannical America. The Nation of Islam is there. The Occupy, all the Acorns and the little Give Me Freebies crowd is there. Those Occupy kids, they did have the right idea in the beginning. You know, they really were sincere. But pretty soon you had the radicals like Steve Lerner and Acorn, and then the rest of the World Can Wait and the Communists of America, New Communist Party of America, and then, of course, now we got the Panthers and Nation of Islam, and Jesse Jackson and Sharpton and the whole crew is in there, and just it's turned into a real freak show. There were actors there, too. On Friday night, I was watching some of the live streams, and there were a couple of young ladies there and a young man. And they were literally, I mean, you could tell that they had practiced. It was completely choreographed. They were talking and saying, "Stop killing us." And then the other one would talk and would finish with "Stop killing us," and then the first one would pick up there. And it was going back and forth for a while. There were two locations eventually, because down the street from there, not really down the street, it's like a 20-minute walk or a 5-minute ride from there. There was another young man who was shot. He fired a 9mm at a cop 3 times, and the cop ended up killing the guy. And, of course, you know, the people in the neighborhood were saying they killed him, and, you know, he was only armed with a sandwich, which was a lie. He actually did get 3 shots off at the cop before the cop shot back. You know, so now that's called the Shaw shooting. It's just getting to the point now where it is an absolute freak show. The cops are even sitting there laughing at these people. They march back and forth, and they throw things at the cops, and they got all their live feeds going. Nothing is going to come of this other than the political theater that it turned out to be. You know, cops are not all bad. Cops are not all good either. And we have to wade through them, just like everybody else. They tell you don't paint all blacks or Italians or whites or Asians or anybody else. Don't paint them all with the same brush. But then we have an incident like this. What if that cop was justified? What if? And what if he wasn't? You know, that's what the grand jury has to decide. But that'll be decided in a court, not in the street. But, of course, the New Black Panthers, they want it decided in the street whether the guy was justified or not. So what's it going to be now? Is white cops not going to be able to work in black neighborhoods and vice versa? Black cops can't work in white neighborhoods? You know, is that what people want? And then you got these other kids screaming, we want cameras and we want more patrols and we want this and we want that. And then they call themselves revolutionaries. What kind of revolutionary screams for more government programs? I thought revolutionaries were independent and they wanted to be free from the bondage of government tyranny. You know, every revolution that I ever heard of was to free people from tyranny. These people are screaming for more government, not even realizing.
These are all organized, orchestrated. They're even busting them in from Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And you can tell, too. They come up, they show up for 4 hours, they march, they bring their pre-printed signs and their color-coded T-shirts. It looks like a camp rendezvous, a day camp rendezvous. Everybody's color-coded in their special T-shirts for each group. They stay 4 hours and they leave. So remember with the Obamacare protests, they were hiring illegals and they were hiring the day laborers and things like that, giving them all T-shirts and paying them for 4 hours and providing transportation. And that's exactly what it looks like. They're trying to get something going. And then I see these signs, white supremacy must end. And it's being held by a white person. And, you know, what is this white supremacy, by the way? I'd really like to know. I mean, that's
maybe
really
maybe they mean white liberal supremacy in the media, in the school, in Hollywood. No, I don't think so. But that's where
I don't think so. But yeah, at least if that, you know, that would be more sincere than the crap they're pulling now. You know, but this white supremacy thing has got me crazy. I'm absolutely over the race card. I am just done with it. It's maxed out. You know, I want to shove it up the next person's rear end that even tries it. I'm not 150 years old. I never had a slave. None of my ancestors ever had slaves either. You know, I'm not going to take any kind of a rap for something that happened 150 years ago. I didn't do it. And, these people that are claiming this are probably doing better than me. So, you can really keep that race card. Ulsterman, my dear friend, D.W. Ulsterman, if you don't know who he is, check him out. He's a famous author now. He has some great books, too. Irish Cowboy, Bennington P.I., his Tumultus and Dominatus, and all of his books are just fantastic. He wrote an article, and it's about Ferguson and white supremacy. If you don't mind, I'd like to share it with you guys. So went the cry over the weekend by growing numbers of increasingly angry and aggressive protesters in St. Louis following the shooting death of a young black man by an off-duty white police officer. It appears the crowds of protesters care little for the fact that Vonderrit Myers Jr. was already a hardened criminal. This is the second one, the one that I just told you about, had the sandwich, allegedly. He was a hardened criminal who, at the time of his death, is said to have already shot at the off-duty officer with a stolen gun and was then killed when that officer fired back in self-defense. Apparently, for some in America, a white male who shoots and kills an attacker is an example of white supremacy, or in this case, a sign-carrying moment of self-hatred. Where are the professionally made signs and throngs of protesters for thousands of black men killed every year by other black men? Parts of St. Louis are being described as places of violence and danger, where residents and college students are living behind locked doors, fearful to go out once darkness falls. Other reports suggest professional protesters arrived to incite further violence and conflict with local law enforcement. That's what Scott was just saying. Note how these protesters on the streets of St. Louis, as well as the liberal politicians of Washington, D.C., only focus on false charges of racism and demands that law enforcement do their jobs differently, while also calling for more money to be spent on programs that will grow the power of government and allow it to further monitor not only police officers but private citizens. And yet, nothing is really being done to remedy the cultural abyss that places these black youth into worlds of murder and mayhem in the first place. For to do that, at least honestly, would require a significant portion of blame to be directed at the same government policies liberals demand more of. Big government robs people of their identity and sense of self and places them into lives of caricature where opportunity is limited to what they feel can be stolen by first knife or gun. Since the war on poverty was initiated in the 1960s, poverty rates remain constant. More and more children are born without a father in their lives. An ever-increasing number of women have children with several different men, then effectively turn to the government to raise those children for them. And the cycle repeats itself over and over again because that's what certain politicians want. There is much money and power to be had in political race-mongering in America. And if thousands of minority youth must die or be imprisoned to keep that money and power coming, so be it. Now there's a cause I could protest. He's right. There is money in it.
You know what? Whenever they declare a war on something, all it means is a way to make the government bigger. That's about it, you know. We need a new program. We need a new division. We need a new department.
Yep, and all the politicians line up with their fist out for the new wad of money about to get thrown at it.
You know, look at the war on drugs. More drugs are coming into the country as ever, and that's after creating the DEA, ATF, you name it.
Right. You're right.
Just a reason for bigger government.
Yep, the war on drugs and the ATF. And, you know, now it's turned out that it's the ATF that are bringing in the drugs, and they're running out the guns. You know,
exactly.
This is the agency that was supposed to stop that, the war on drugs.
That's how it was set up to the beginning. They just tell you a certain name, and it's usually the opposite of what they say it is.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Department of Education done, you know?
Yeah, well, it's out of control. And, you know, I'm not black. I don't pretend to know the black experience. However, I grew up in a city. My last year of high school, I'm giving my age away here now, was the first year of busing in Boston. We went through this. And it's, you know, it's just deja vu all over again. Nothing has changed. And this government keeps throwing money around, and they say they're throwing it at the problem, but they're not throwing it at the problem. They're throwing it in each other's pockets. Every time they get a new cause celeb, there's a new check that goes with it, and everybody gets greased. It's a wonderful little racket they have, and nobody gets any better off. You think blacks are better off? No, they're not. You know, is anybody going to get rich on welfare? Of course not. You know, so keeping these people on welfare, they're afraid to get off welfare because it is a steady check, it's stability. But staying on welfare is keeping you poor and down. You're never going to have a new car. You're never going to own your own home. You know, you're not going to send your kids to private school. And
well, you don't need to own your own home anymore. Now you can just go in and get a new deed on somebody else's home.
That's true too.
Right?
That's true. Yeah, in New York you can. I bet you there's more than New York, yeah. You know, but there are. Go ahead.
I've seen that same story coming out of Florida and other places, where people just move right into your house while you're on vacation. You come home from vacation and you got strangers in your house, so you call the police, and the police come over and say, "Sorry, we can't do anything about it."
Yeah. You know, you have to go through a whole process to evict them, and they're not your tenants. There was never a contract or a rental agreement made or anything else. You know, so you got to keep paying for this house while strangers live in it. I saw that over in Boca Raton. There was a guy living in a real swanky house. He just moved in. You know, but how is any of this fixing poverty? It isn't. Jobs fix poverty. Self-respect, self-reliance, self-motivation. Education fixes poverty. You know, having a father in the home fixes poverty. You know, they're making our men feel like they're disposable. You're nothing but a check, a baby daddy. They don't even call him a man anymore. They call him baby daddy. You know, a father is a very important thing in the household. A father is a very important thing to both little girls and little boys. And, you know, these people that are just having babies and walking away and leaving it up to someone else to support them, you know, that's not cool. But our men are now completely sissified. They're told how unimportant they are, how, you know, the baby can get a new daddy next week. No, you can't. You have one daddy. You know, your mother may have a new boyfriend next week, but it's not your daddy. And it's not going to love you like your daddy does. You know, no one tells people that part.
Well, and when you don't have a male role model in the house, you look for one elsewhere, and that is usually gangs.
Mhm.
You know, you go hook up with a gang.
Yeah, the gangs are replacing the family structure. And they really are a family, too. I really can't blame the kids. You know, they're making money, whatever they're doing, selling drugs, robbing, you know, whatever gangs do. So there's money there. There is a loyalty, a family-style loyalty. You know, most gangs are boys. You know, boys have a sense of their malehood, their manhood, when they hang around with other males and male role models. You know, maybe putting a couple of respectable real male role models in their lives wouldn't hurt. And, you know, all these shrinks tell you, break up and do this and do that. You know, don't break up. If it's okay to make you a mother, it's okay to make you a wife. You know, remember that, too. So.
Well, that was one of the very first things they attacked was the family.
Yep. And that's in the Communist Manifesto, by the way, the family and religion. Get rid of those.
Yep.
And replace it with the all-powerful government.
The state, yep. The state is your God. The state is your parent. You look for the state for your needs.
Mhm. Right down to the TSA is separating families. When you take your kid to Disney World and you have to fly there and you have to go on an airplane, all the kid's life you tell the kid no one's supposed to touch your private parts. Anything that you got to cover with a bathing suit is your private. No one's supposed to touch them except your doctor. Well, You tell this kid over and over and over again, and then you take it to an airport, and what's the first thing you do? You hand it over to a stranger to get felt up by the TSA. That tells the kid that the government is more powerful than the parent. It creates a mistrust between the parent and child because everything you've told them, you just went against. So that destroys the family,
it violates one of our amendments, the fourth one, I believe. Illegal search and seizure, right to privacy, one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're supposed to be secure with your persons. There's no reason to be treated like you're a prisoner, in a penitentiary when you're just trying to exercise your right to travel.
Right. And it is a right to travel, and you paid for your tickets.
The only way you can avoid the X-ray scanners or the invasive frisking is if you wear a burqa. Yeah,
that's kind of freaky, too. I mean, you could hide all kinds of stuff under a burqa. That's ridiculous. That's self-defeating right there.
They don't want to profile them,
Yeah.
They're only 99.9% of all terrorists, but, they don't want to profile them.
I know, yeah.
Much better to go after a 90-year-old cancer-stricken grandmother in a wheelchair than it is a Saudi delegate.
Yeah, the 90-year-old crippled grandmother with cancer in the wheelchair. I don't think she's going to be hijacking planes anytime soon. Unbelievable. Kelly's in the chat room says, good education fixes poverty, and then the tactic is to get the males weak, and it helps overtake society. That's true.
Yes, it is.
Yep, and AstroTurf with the communist takeover of America, the 45 declared goals, and
And look what they're doing to males nowadays. You can't be a kid anymore. You can't play army or with toy guns in the street anymore, like you used to. You can't even take a bite out of a Pop-Tart, or you might be expelled because the Pop-Tart is in the shape of a gun.
Yeah.
How ridiculous is that?
Yeah, don't break in my house. I'm going to whip out my Pop-Tart and bite it into a shape of a gun. That ought to scare you, right? I think that we're on the path of just ruination. And, and back to males. You can't even tell a kid that it's male or female anymore. It's a purple penguin now.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
A purple penguin. Can you believe that crap? I got to tell the world something.
I also can't believe that came out of Nebraska. It said a school district in Nebraska, and I never did get to see what district that was in.
Yeah, well, some whacked-out liberal screwball decided that some child somewhere has a gender identity crisis, so we're just going to eliminate gender, period, from all the children. I got news for you, Chickie. You do not fix a gender identity crisis by replacing it with a species identity crisis. When a kid looks in the mirror and doesn't see a purple penguin, it's going to freak out. You tell the kid it's a purple penguin, and then it sees a mirror, it's going to think it's hallucinating. Check what kind of mushrooms the chick had on her sandwich, the one that came up with that. And the ones that went along with it, they're worse. You got one freak in the crowd who says something like that. The rest of you are supposed to straighten it out, not say, oh, yeah, that's a big, cool idea. No, it isn't. Even penguins aren't purple. So, somebody might want to have a little chat, maybe bring a net in a rubber room and straighten those people out.
It's just totally destroying our traditions,
Purple
everything.
Penguin. My children are not purple or penguins.
It's just stupid. It's the politically correct insanity.
Yeah. That's worse.
The needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. It's completely backwards. Everybody's supposed. If there's 99 Christians in a football stadium, they all want to pray, and there's one atheist there, nobody can pray. That's not even democracy.
No.
They're always calling our constitutional republic a democracy. What kind of democracy is that?
Yeah.
When one person decides for 100. That's dictatorship.
Exactly. And, you know, you don't punish everybody for one's slights any more than you take away everybody's identity because one person might have a gender identity crisis. If you got a gender identity crisis, there are shrinks and there are ways to work through it. I mean, you tell the other kids don't bully the kid, because that's not right either. You know, just accept them the way they are. They don't have to change anything. They don't have to be a purple penguin.
And this is the
They
same.
can just be themselves.
This is the same method they're trying to use with gun control as well. You know, it's like one kid throwing paper on the floor, and instead of, you know, expelling him or making him stay after class, you make every kid in the country stay after class because somebody in New Mexico threw paper on the floor. That's what it is with gun control. Some whack job goes crazy, and all of a sudden it's supposed to affect my rights? I don't think so.
Right. Yeah, somebody I don't even know on the other side of the country shoots somebody, and they want to take away my gun. What? I didn't shoot anybody.
Yeah, rights are not debatable like that. I mean, you know, what somebody calls a cop a pig or something somewhere, and all of a sudden I can't use the word pig. You know, I mean, you know, it's ridiculous. Yeah. But this is the same thing that Obama was talking about as far as what was it? He was trying to speak about religion.
And he made it about salvation.
Right, collective salvation, exactly. No, there is no collective salvation. Sorry, we're not insects. We don't have a hive mind. You know, we're not the Borg. We're individual human beings. And individual human beings have rights. It's the right of the individual.
Yes.
You know.
It's the right of the individual.
And that goes into when MSNBC said, children are not your children. They belong to the whole community. No, my kid belongs to me, and I'll teach my kid the way I want to teach him. I don't want some commie weirdo teaching him all kinds of stuff, brainwashing him before he's in the 3rd grade.
Right. Purple penguin. Yeah, your children are not your own, but then some screwball's going to tell it it's a penguin?
You know, you can't even be proud of your gender anymore. It's ridiculous. It's taken away pride from everything, you know. And that's what do they do when you go into the Army? They break you down to pretty much nothing and build you back up into a soldier, right? Well, that's what they're doing with children, except when they're building them back up, they're not building them back up into something positive. They're building them back up into a state drone, you know, a robot.
Yes. And they're using American children as their little lab rats to do it. You know, you see these kids in the Middle East out there with their father, 3, 4, 5 years old, practicing shooting guns. The kids out here, if they're with their father and the kid bites a Pop-Tart, the father's going into jail, the kid's going into a shrink, and the social workers are going to show up. You know, they're using the United States as an example and a social experiment. And the people in the United States are just, you know, laid back saying, nah, that's not true, and you're a conspiracy theorist and all that. No, honey. Let them tell you, kid, that it's a purple penguin, and then you spend the rest of its life in the shrink's office trying to explain to them why they look in the mirror and they don't see a purple penguin. And then tell me I'm crazy? Yeah. Hey, let's talk about ISIS for a second. ISIS has Baghdad surrounded. There are thousands, maybe 10,000, of the fanatical barbarians had gathered outside the Iraqi capital, poised to take it by force. This is from the New York Post. Do you know we have 1,500 American soldiers in Baghdad, non-combat advisors? Now, if Baghdad is surrounded and our troops that are there are non-combat, what do you think is going to happen to them if there's 10,000 ISIS and 1,500 U.S. soldiers? See, Benghazi all over again? Black Hawk Down, that type of...
Yeah, much worse. They'll take them as hostages. They'll slaughter most of them, parade them in front of cameras.
Yep, behead them.
And Obama will send gift baskets to the bad guys.
Yeah, he'll call up their mosque and congratulate them.
Yep.
Like he did with the beheader in Oklahoma.
That's where we're at.
Yep. Now, that can't be a coincidence, can it? That he called the mosque of the guy who beheaded that American woman. Yeah, nobody told him about
coincidence. It's always planned.
Nobody said, "Hey, Obama, maybe it's not a good idea under the circumstances."
Nope.
Yeah. So then, if it was a good idea, then it was intentional, right? Because he has enough people and enough staff and enough advisors saying, "Hey, Obama, that probably doesn't look good," but he did it anyhow. And today, John Kerry said that it's no big deal if Kobani falls. Kobani, where the Kurds are, it's just one community. One community full of people who are about to be slaughtered.
Yeah, 5,000. Yeah. It's only 5,000 people that you're willing to, let become victims.
Yeah, the Kurds, the only ones, only ones with the balls to fight ISIS.
Nobody even checks what they're saying before they say it. Either that, or they intentionally make speeches just to piss people off.
Yeah, and then of course, ISIS, they're not in it to win hearts and minds like Obama. They want to lop off your hearts and minds. But they have a magazine. Everybody knew about this magazine a long time ago. Well, these ISIS who writes for this magazine just made a promise to enslave your daughters, and it's allowed by the Quran. And they told Obama he's lying about the moderate Islamists because Islamists follow the Quran. This is what the Quran says that they should do. So the moderates are not following the Quran. They're apostates. And that's exactly the way. And he's not just the only one that said it. Even the Saudis have Sharia law. All those Middle East countries up there, Qatar and all, they all have Sharia law. And they will stone women and hang gays and crucify Christians and really harm children. Well, this Islamist guy said, "We will conquer your Rome, break your crosses, and enslave your women by the permission of Allah the Exalted." This is his promise to us. He is glorified and he does not fail in his promise. If we do not reach that time, then our children and grandchildren will reach it, and they will sell your sons as slaves at the slave market. It furthermore went on to describe that these riches of war fall in line with Islam and the Quran, and anyone who doesn't agree with the belief, including fellow Muslims, are apostates. They're going to enslave your daughters, sell your sons. These are the people that Obama calls to congratulate.
And who the Democrats are all getting behind, and not only the Democrats, people like Chris Christie, they're all chumming up to him.
Yeah, they are. Well, that's the goal. They want us. This is a caliphate. It's global, and the people that are telling you to be politically correct and coexist and all that, it's not going to happen. You're being set up. These people are setting you up, and you have to use your own judgment. Do you want your little girls, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, married off to some 50-year-old Islamists? What about your boys? You want them hung? You want them murdered? You want them enslaved? You're going to have to pay jizya to these people? That's what's planned. So figure it out, guys.
Well, the Sharia banking has already been taking over, so that's the next step. And just like they use the word homophobe to get to get gay marriage passed in all these states are going to use the term Islamophobe. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what about that? All these states that try to get to the Supreme Court about this gay marriage ban or whatever, they just struck it down without even looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. And
so individual states mean nothing anymore. You know, if you're, you know, if a state like California or someone who voted against it, by the way, and blacks really voted against it, they were the big majority against gay marriage. Even if your state doesn't want it, you're going to have it, whether you like it or not, because that's the global plan here.
Yeah, well,
you
like
know,
Kelly put, it's an attack on religion too. When the government took over marriages, it was because some atheists didn't want to get married in church, but they wanted to get married, and they said they had all the rights that everybody else had. So the government took it over. That's when they should have called it civil unions. But now, you know, that authority that was with the church before in our society is no longer with the church. So now they say, well, all men are created equal, and if you give a marriage license to one, you have to give a marriage license to all. And that's where they got them. You know, it should be civil unions. If you're married by a civil servant, it's a civil union. If you're married in the church, call it married. Still the same rights and responsibilities, and you don't have to force the churches into marrying you. You can get married by a justice of the peace. You can get married by a judge or a mayor or anyone else, any civil servant. But, you know, leave the churches alone. But this is an attack on the church.
Well, it's also an attack on another tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional marriage, right?
Yep. You know, call it a civil union.
Just keep chipping away at our traditions like they chip away at our civil liberties and everything else.
Yeah.
One at a time.
You know, and it's not even homophobic. You know, there are some things in society that have to be organized in an understandable manner. And you have to recognize people's freedom of religion, too. You can't be forcing nuns to pay for abortions, and you can't be forcing priests to marry gays. You know, that's why we had a revolution. Religious freedom. You know, I think they want another one. Meaning revolution.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these Islamists. You know, we gave $118 million to Gaza after the fight with the Israelis. Now, there was rockets being lobbed into Israel, hundreds a day. Israel went in and straightened them out, but Israel's the jerk. Do you know that Obama and Kerry today said that they're going to fork over another $212 million to Hamas-ruled Gaza? That's on top of the $118 million we already gave them. It's going to end up being $3 billion or $4 billion.
Where's that going to go?
It's going to go to rebuilding the tunnels. And
no,
then Kerry...
Well, rebuilding tunnels and buying rockets.
Right. It's not going to go to the people.
No.
You know, none of this money goes to the people. And those Hamas leaders, when the chips hit the fan with Israel, they all went up to Qatar and were at country clubs and fine dining and five-star hotels while Israel was pounding the Gaza Strip. But then, of course, they're the first ones with their fist out for the money from the United States. Why is it our responsibility, anyhow, to rebuild Gaza? And they told Israel that they got to chip in.
Well, he doesn't listen to him, so that's good. Netanyahu doesn't listen to anything Obama says anyway, so.
And
go in one ear and out the other.
Not ISIS and not any type of military operation is our new agenda for our military. The Pentagon is about to unveil a major report on how the Obama administration plans to use our military to combat climate change. Weasel Zipper says Hagel's also going to detail a new offensive to stop Bigfoot's reign of terror, too, by the way. By way of the Hill. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel will deliver a speech that details the impact of climate change on the U.S. military and the Pentagon's plan to fight it. Hagel's address at a meeting of defense ministers in Peru coincides with the release of a report that will lay out the Pentagon's blueprint on how it will tackle climate change. Defense Department officials have long said that the impact of climate change is not a distant threat, but one felt now by the U.S. operations across the world. So that's our biggest threat, not ISIS, not Ebola, not...
And the two biggest polluters on the planet are exempt, China and India.
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense, don't it?
Yeah, sure it does. And
so
the ocean is not warming, by the way.
Carbon credit tax passed, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. Obama started the Chicago Climate Exchange with a $2 million grant from the Joyce Foundation. He and Bill Ayers both sat on the board of the Joyce Foundation, by the way. So anybody thinks that they're not good friends, you might want to look up a little more. Now let's talk about Ebola. We only got about 6 minutes to do it in. And other things, too, because there's a plane right now being quarantined at Boston's Logan Airport. 5 people are about to be taken off the plane. CDC is there. They all got the hazmat suits. They got ambulances and all kinds of official cars. The plane is at the far end of the runway, not even getting close to the terminal. The rest of the passengers are not being allowed off. Everybody's thinking Ebola. No, there's another disease that's going around in the Middle East. It's called MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. These people are showing signs of that. Although not as fatal as Ebola. Ebola kills 70% of its victims. MERS kills 30% of them. But this is also a communicable disease. And now everybody on that plane is going to have to be checked and evaluated because you can't be spreading MERS all around. And these people are on a plane. They're going to be going to a gazillion different places. The plane came out of Dubai. So watch out for MERS. It's a viral respiratory illness, and it was first reported in Saudi Arabia in 2012. And it's caused by a coronavirus, MERS-CoV. And most people who have been confirmed to have MERS infection develop severe acute respiratory illness. They have fever, cough, shortness of breath, and about 30% of the people confirmed to have MERS infection have died. So it does kill 30% of the people. All right, let's talk about Ebola for now. That Judge Jenkins, you know, the guy who went into Duncan's apartment and he drove the family to this undisclosed location, allegedly at a gated community. I got to tell you something about that before we go further. I do not believe that they're in any private residence in a gated community. I'd be willing to bet that they are maybe at an army base in a containment area. And they have to be raging. If this young nurse with just, minimal contact with this guy, it now has Ebola, I can guarantee you that family is raging. They're not going to tell us. They're not going to tell us that these people are sick. They're going to tell us, oh, no, they're doing fine. They're living happily ever after in this gated community that Judge Jenkins brought them to. That's a bunch of hooey. Jenkins, okay, I don't know what he was trying to prove. He's a liberal, by the way, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. I don't know what he's trying to prove, but he went in there without any type of protective gear. And then he had a press conference, and he was bragging about how he was wearing the same shirt to show everybody that he wasn't scared. Now, they also put him in charge of emergency operations. He's a judge, like Scott just said, a lawyer. But he's not just any lawyer. He's got his own firm. He's the president of Jenkins & Jenkins. He's got a law degree from Baylor University. He was an educational aide to the late Senator Oscar Mauzey, M-A-U-Z-Y. He was a congressional intern to U.S. Representative Martin Frost. He was an LBJ intern. And he was an intern to the late U.S. Senator Lloyd Benson. And he also did a clerkship with the Texas Supreme Court. He's an activist. He says that he wants to lead Dallas in the right direction. Right now it says here that As the chief elected official of the county, Judge Jenkins is also responsible for the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Department that provides round-the-clock staff to protect Dallas County citizens through coordinated security and emergency management resources. What is a judge doing that for? How did he get qualified for that? And then
I don't know.
all these stories about how those rotten Republicans cut the budget for the NIS, the Health National Health Agency, NIH. Well, you know what? No, they didn't cut it. As a matter of fact, they got a raise. So did the CDC. But they misappropriated the money. They didn't spend the money on. People are saying, well, if the Republicans didn't cut the funds, then we would have had the money to work on an Ebola vaccine. Baloney. They did a study, and it cost them a couple of $1 million, too, to find out why lesbians are heavier than gay men. Well, you know what? Have they tried exercising, diet, genetics, lack of physical exercise? And another thing, too, gay women are trying to be masculine, a lot of them. And gay men are trying to be feminine, so they would cut down on their body weight. So where's my millions? I just gave you all the answers. They spend money on shrimps on treadmills and drunk monkeys and male prostitutes in Mexico for these studies. All that money together is like, I don't know, $3 billion. They make a lot of vaccines. Plus, the National Institute of Health doesn't make vaccines, and neither does the CDC. Pharmaceutical companies do. So it's all a bunch of hogwash.
Well, they give grants for anything nowadays. Do you know that they gave a grant to some Turkish guy, I believe, to find out the positive and negatives of putting Jewish people in gas chambers?
Oh, my God.
They give him a grant for that. I mean, they'll give you a grant for anything. As long as it's some twisted, idea, something to help the NWO out, the globalists, they'll give you money for anything.
Yeah, well, in January, the budget was increased 8.2%. It says the influx of cash will raise the CDC budget to $6.9 billion, which is $567 million more than it received in 2013. So they had $567 more than they did last year, $567 million more than they had last year, for an overall budget of $6.9 billion. Can't come up with a few bucks out of that?
Yeah, it's all a big money laundering operation.
Mm-hmm.
They give a grant for $30 million to somebody. It goes, it's like the green energy, the green thing, philandering, and all that. They give them this money for this so-called cause. It goes bankrupt. They kick back a bunch of money for campaign contributions. So it's basically just giving yourself money. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Look at all the money it costs. Look at all the money it's costing taxpayers to fly the president around the country so he can raise money at Gwyneth Paltrow's house for Democrats.
Yeah, it's $200,000 just to turn that puppy on. I got two more things about Ebola, then we got to go. NBC chief medical correspondent violated her Ebola quarantine. Remember the cameraman that came down with Ebola and they brought him over? Well, the whole crew is under quarantine, including this woman. Her name is Nancy Snyderman, and they were ordered into mandatory isolation Friday. Well, she decided she wanted some soup from her favorite restaurant. Got in the car and went to the restaurant and got her soup. The restaurant's quarantined. She broke the quarantine herself. So what's she, an elitist and rules it for everybody else? And, she's another selfish leftist. She wanted soup, and she wanted to go herself, so screw civilization, right? And my last story on Ebola is that poor nurse. Her name is Nina Pham, Pham. She's 26 years old. This young girl, wanted a career, devoting her life in the care of other people. And boy, is she getting thrown under the bus. Between the CDC saying about violation of protocol, a breach of protocol, and the hospital trying to cover their ass for letting the guy go, and now all these racism cries. The poor girl, she's sick. They didn't kill her dog, though. Her dog is in quarantine, but they didn't kill her. That was the Spanish nurse's dog that they ended up killing, not this girl.
Yeah. I was going to
Yeah,
say,
I thought it was her.
I heard one of them.
But, and Louisiana doesn't want them to bring the waste there. As a matter of fact, they said, absolutely not. Don't bring your stuff here. I got a story here. I know the name of the place, but my paper's stuck together here. Lake Charles Hazardous Waste Facility. They were going to accept the incinerated Ebola waste, but they decided to reject it. So Louisiana is not getting it. And as far as that Ebola treatment being racist, let me tell you something. That guy Duncan, he's black. Yes, he is. And he very selfishly got on a plane full of people. If he's from Liberia, most of them were probably black. His family, who he exposed, were black. The people at the hospital in a black neighborhood were probably black. This young nurse here is also a minority. She's Vietnamese. So if anybody was the racist, it was Duncan. And they can keep that race card. And that's all I got for you today, folks. You got anything to say before we go?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Buy guns, buy ammo, store food, hope for the best, and prepare for the worst.
There you go.
That's
the
all.
best advice anybody can give you. Scott, thank you. Appreciate you coming in today and helping me out like this. You're a great co-host. All right, everybody, that's all the time we have for today, and we hope you enjoyed our show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. All you callers, I saw you on the switchboard.